All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Capture Your Dreams podcast. My name is Velez, and I am your host, as is usual. But today I'm joined by a very, very special guest, one that I have formed a friendship with over the last couple of months. One of my favorite streamers, the one, the only, HOBO. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So, guys, if you have not seen him or checked him out, you guys know we feature a lot of Facebook streamers on this podcast. As being so, make sure you check him out. All caps, HOBO, Hobo on Facebook, a fantastic content creator. Make sure you go over there, give him a like, give him a follow, maybe stop by the stream. But today, I want to discuss a few things. So number one, our friendship. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually Hobo's editor, but that
hmm
started it was kind of a weird start to how that came about. So what was your mindset on, like, when I first came in your chat and first came a supporter? It took us forever to finally play together, but like,
Right.
what clicked to make us just be like, every single day we either talk or we play a game or there's something that happens, but like we're like best friends now? Like, what clicked to make that happen?
Man, I don't know exactly what it was, but I know that the first time we played together, I was pretty much dying laughing the entire time. And I was just having a real good time. We were vibing hard. And that was what I was looking for with people that I run with. Like I want people that I vibe with.
Yeah,
And it was a good time. I don't know. That
absolutely.
just that definitely kicked it off.
Yeah, so it's Hobo is a fantastic streamer, and one of the first time we played, it was back in BO4 when we were trying to originally get together. But I remember my issue
Mhm.
was that, like, you were on Discord all the time because somebody didn't have a mix amp that would go to the PS4 so we could talk to chat. Oh, so irritated about that.
My bad.
But but I remember my mix amp was messing up and I actually couldn't link to Discord, and it ended up being that my PC was just so outdated that the board didn't even let it connect to those things. So it's funny because it wasn't until I had to get a whole new PC and start playing PC on Call of Duty that we finally were able to play together. But so
hmm
for you as a content creator, you got this hobo vibe, you got the big beard, the what do you mean, you got the hobo train, you got the whistle. Where did all that come from? Like, where did that start for you, and why is that who you are now?
Oh man, it's kind of a combination of two things. So when I first started gaming years ago with one of my friends, he was actually the OG Hobo Buster. That was his gamer tag, and I used to
Yeah.
play. I would go over to his house, and we would play Halo split screen online. And that was and so I was Hobo Buster parenthesis one, and it was just that was how we got started. So when I created my very first Xbox gamer tag, I just was like X Hobo Buster X as a joke to mess with him. Well, it
Yeah.
stuck, and I made a lot of friends online because, as you know, I mean, gaming online, you make a lot of friends that way.
Oh yeah.
And everybody knew me by
Absolutely.
it, so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna keep it. That's fine. But as I grew up, I was like, I gotta change this. I can't steal his stuff, so I shortened it down to Hobo mainly because for me, the definition of a hobo is kind of vague, but basically, it's somebody who likes to travel the world, ride them trains. It's somebody who doesn't have. They don't call one place home, and I've been like that my entire life. I've never stayed in one city longer than a year or two as a kid.
Yeah.
As I got older, that changed, but even then, like I've so far away from where I grew up, it's insane. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of used to moving around, feeling different cultures. I don't plan on living where I live now for very long either. Like someday, we're gonna move, we're gonna travel the world, things like that.
Yeah.
So a
Absolutely.
hobo without a home. That's how I describe it.
Absolutely. So I know we were talking the other day, and maybe on your stream or when we were playing. I'm not sure when it was, but I heard you mention that another Facebook streamer, was it Jester? I think it was Jester maybe that
Jester, yep.
got pulled up, that you had actually made a comment that he originally was the guy who kind of pushed you to really get heavy into streaming.
hmm
So
hmm
where did he
hmm
come into play? Now I kind of know where the name comes from. Where did he come into play to say, "Hey, you need to make the decision and you got to do this because you're
Mhm,
awesome,"
mhm, mhm,
which
mhm.
you've been super successful. So where did he
Right.
come into play on being like, "Hey, you need to start streaming"?
Right, yeah, so in order to talk about Jester, I also have to talk about General Skittles. Both of them are IRL friends. Skittles was actually a friend of mine, a friend of a friend, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
but we had a lot of common ground, and I started playing Blackout with him on BO4, way back when it first came out. Actually, I think we started with Fortnite and then we went to Blackout. And when I was playing Blackout with him, one day he's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, I can't play with you tonight. I'm playing with a streamer." And I'm like, "Oh, you're playing with a streamer? That's cool. Who is it?" And he's like, "Oh, it's this guy Jester. He actually lives in our town. He's a friend of mine." And I'm like, "Oh, all right, cool, cool, cool. I'm bored if you guys need a third." And sure enough, they let me join up with them. And Jester was the only one streaming, and we had such an incredible time playing games over and over again, and we vibed so well. Had a solid conversation, solid gameplay, all of that good stuff. We ended up all agreeing. It was sort of a mutual three-way where we're like, you know what, Skittles and Hobo, you guys, like, we had to stream too.
Yeah.
We had to do it. So we kind of created this sort of community with just us three, playing a lot of games together and stuff like that, in the very beginning. And so that's what I was talking about. Jester was the first streamer that like introduced me to the world of streaming. He taught me the kind of equipment I needed to go after. He showed me what he had, and it kind of went from there.
Yeah. So all that being said, though, did you really expect to be as successful as you are? You have
No.
not to flex or anything, but you got the supporters. I'm actually one of those.
Hmm.
For those of you who don't know, the supporter button on Facebook is basically if you watch any Twitch, they have subscribing buttons and things like that where you can do monthly payments. It's basically the same thing. It's just the Facebook version of it. I think it's what $5, like $4.99 a month or something
For
like that.
99 a month. Yeah.
So basically, it's just a subscription monthly to behind the scenes content, some cool stuff that other people can't get if you're not a supporter, which by the way, some freaking awesome stuff, if I might say so myself. But
Hey.
did you ever see yourself having a supporter button, having thousands of followers, being what I would consider honestly from an outside view an influencer and having the reach you have? Did you ever see that success coming?
No, no, not at all. When I first started streaming, I had a full-time, very, very secure and lucrative position. I was a CIO and a tech lead. I was an engineer, a tech lead, an architect, like all of that stuff at a software startup in the town where I lived.
Yeah.
And I was a partner. I owned part of the company. I had a lot of people working under me, a lot of people working with me, and ultimately I had a full-time, like, to retirement kind of career, right? Was making buku bucks, was doing lots of good things. And at the point where I started getting into streaming, it was a completely different kind of personality and feeling that I had to have to be able to be in front of people, because I was very introverted at the time. I was
Yeah.
not able to talk to other people. I was not able to, definitely not. I had such bad stage fright my whole life. There was no way I was going to go on camera in front of other people. Um,
Exactly.
and so when I actually started on Mixer at first because I didn't have a computer that could handle stream encoding and stuff like that. So I was doing Xbox straight to Mixer. And when I did that, I had a few Hype Zone plays. I don't know if you know what
Yeah.
Hype Zone is on
Yep.
Mixer, but yeah, I had a few Hype
Yep.
Zone plays, and I got a lot of attention through that. And that just kind of made me feel really giddy inside. So I decided, you know what, I'm still treating this as a hobby, but with all hobbies, I kind of go hard. Like when I first started woodworking, I bought all of the equipment that I needed to
Oh
to
yeah,
do
I feel
simple
that
woodworking.
absolutely.
I did the same thing with streaming. I bought a stream computer. I bought a brand new camera, brand new headset, like a brand new mic. Like I was all in. I was like, but I was still treating it as a hobby. I just wanted to have a lot of fun with it, and I had the means to
Exactly.
do so at the time.
Yeah.
And um, but no, like it never felt like it was going to be a full time thing. Um, until later, and definitely until later. And
Yeah.
about halfway through 2019 is when I realized that the person that I was on stream and the person that I am when I think about my brand and about my stream and about my community and all of that stuff, like that is the person that I am. Like that's who I want to be. I was being way too shut in, at my job. I was so focused on the work, but I wasn't like while I was good at it, I wasn't enjoying it. Does that make sense? You know what I'm
Oh,
talking
I
about.
yeah,
So
I completely understand.
yeah.
Completely. So I know another thing that you're kind of getting into, and this is the sole reason that I came in as
Hmm.
the editor position. Um, you're getting into the offline content, YouTube variety streaming, let's plays, funny content, that area. But there's not a lot of people doing that right now on Facebook. There's a
Right.
few. There's a few that are kind of taking that step out, but it is a different world from streaming for how many years you've been to moving into this like pre-recorded slash edited content, and you're moving from just being a streamer on Facebook, now you're a content creator on multiple platforms.
Mm.
So why do you care? Why did you care to start doing this offline content? Is it growth? Is it spotlight? Is it, what is it that made you want to move into having content that is 5 minutes long compared to having content that's 4 or 5 hours long?
Mm-hmm. Boils down to two reasons. The first is, I mean, you mentioned it with growth. Yes, growth is a big deal, and I do believe that as a content creator, as a streamer or whatever it is, I think you have a better chance of successful growth when you have offline content available for people to see, and you direct everything towards your streams, towards your streaming page, things like that. I think that offline content is really important for that. So growth was part of it. The main reason, like the sole reason, comes back to why I stream in the first place, and it's the ability to, I just want to make some people laugh. I want to make some people feel good, and I want to make some people have a loving, caring attitude towards other people, towards other people, whether it's other people in the community, other people in the game, other people that are in, me, that, like myself, like be nice to me, like things like that,
Exactly, exactly.
and if I can create anytime that I'm not live, to me it feels like I'm not influencing, I'm not helping, I'm not helping spread that vibe around, like I'm
Exactly,
not
yeah.
putting that energy out into the universe if I don't. So if I have offline content, then that means that somebody on YouTube goes and watches something, they're going to see, if they get to my video, they're going to hopefully feel a little better after watching that video, you
Exactly,
know
exactly. Yeah, it's a definitely a different world of, well, just being completely honest, it's a different world of mental health because,
Mhm.
as a people don't realize, and I don't know if you saw or not, but Dr. Lupo actually did a stream the other day, and it kind of shows you where generations are when it comes to this quarantine and streamed content and dudes sitting down playing video games for a living. It kind of shows you where the generations are. But Dr. Lupo actually did a stream, and you can find it on his YouTube channel, literally going through comments that I think maybe the Washington Post, I think it was, they did
Mhm.
a post and said a few things and mentioned Dr. Lupo and his, air quotes, job as a streamer. And there were thousands after thousands of comments of people saying, I hope we get past this dream of reality that is people are making actual money doing gaming. And I hope people get out of this idea that it's actually helping kids to see you stream. And I hope that we get a generation after these people who are actually productive. I, it made me irritated at first, but then it also made me realize, that's another generation of work. And where the 9 to 5 job is super important, to be completely honest, you and your 9 to 5 job don't have as much, I would say, of an ability to influence as you do with, having as many followers and being live every day, talking to those people, getting to know your followers, which you do very well. Having your moderators, having people come in chat saying, hey, your stream made me feel really good. I was having a bad day, which is actually part of why I started watching you. Because, I was having, at the time, back when I was streaming PS4, which is actually a really long time ago now. But at the time I was having a really difficult time in life. I was trying to figure my way through some things. And I remember I was just looking through streamers because I wanted to watch something that wasn't like super competitive, but it also wasn't somebody just dilly dallying around. And I found your stream and I watched it for a little bit and I was like, yo, he's really funny and really entertaining. And so when I saw you had the supporter button, that's when I was like, you know what? I've been watching this dude for a couple of weeks now. I think he's got really good content. He's consistent. And he really helped me pull kind of that more positive attitude out of myself. And
Mhm.
so that's actually why I started supporting. But what does it mean to you as an influencer, as a streamer, and a content creator now on multiple platforms to have the ability to hopefully make somebody's day better or to make somebody's good day even better. What does that mean to you?
It's huge, man. It really is. It's a big deal. It gives me chills, you know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I wish I could give you an exact number of how many messages and comments and things like I've gotten from just people that I've never met in real life. Like people that I've never seen face to face saying that I helped them with this. I helped influence their decision on something to, to make sure that they were thinking about it from all angles, or I helped somebody feel better because they were having a bad day. Like you said, like the words that you said when I hopped into your stream one day, and you were already like you were in the middle of talking about me, and you talked about how how I helped you, and or how you felt after watching some of my content or something like that. Like it blew my mind that I could actually have an influence, powerful enough to help someone feel better, because I wasn't getting that in my old career. Before I was a software developer, I was a 911 dispatcher, and everything was super fast.
Really?
Oh yeah, it
I didn't
was
know
it was
that.
crazy. Yeah, I was 911. I did EMS, fire, police, answered 911 calls. Did dispatch, all of that good stuff. Um,
Wow.
and don't get me wrong, that job, like the feeling inside you get from a good day of work, like oh my gosh, it was amazing, right? Like
Yeah,
I helped all these people. But
absolutely.
the main difference between that job and something I feel now, um, is on that one, you hang up the phone with somebody on 911, right? Everybody calls you when they're having a bad
Exactly.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hang up the phone, you don't know what happens after that. Like the officers go out there, the medics go out there, whatever, they take care of the problem, they report back in service. That's it. Like you don't know the outcome, you don't know if that
Yeah.
person lived or died, you don't know what happens. And there is such a worry there as a person where you're sitting there going, did I help them? I have no idea if
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
helped them.
Yep.
And finding that out now is such a huge, almost a relief. So, kudos to everybody in the 911 industry, because that is a massive, thankless job. It is kind of weird for me being in more of a thankful job,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
but I do. I love it. I love knowing that I'm helping someone. And I believe my wife and I have done a lot of research over the past year into um, human psychology,
Yeah.
not just and from all ranges, all the way from children aces all the way up to the elderly and inability in what is the word, debilitated people. I'm not sure exactly what the word is
And
for it.
dis
Invalids.
something.
I don't know. I don't know what the name is for it, but
Disabilitized.
I'm so bad with words. But like knowing and we've been doing a lot of digging into and trying to understand the psychology, and her and I have debates almost constantly on why a person would feel the way they feel, or understanding people's personality types and understanding what makes how a person is wired, what makes them tick, things like that. Um and one of the biggest things that I've come to realize is that because of how different every single person's situation is in their entire lives, you're not going to make everybody happy
Exactly.
every
Yeah.
time. And I don't know, just being able to make somebody happy. My goal is to sit there and understand you as a person, and understand what you're going after, and then hopefully help you along your path as much as possible, um, and help you feel better, I guess. I
Yeah.
I don't know, it's really hard to put it into words. I've always had an issue like putting my concept
No,
into
yeah,
an
and
actual
I
description.
agree, and I think that that's one of the hardest parts of being, even when I was streaming, because I stream like once a week now, but I actually am a full time editor now. I do a lot of stuff for a lot of people. I'm a vlogger.
Yes, you do.
I moved from the streaming world to the content creation world, which is where our relationship actually really started. Like that's where our relationship
Mhm,
really blossomed from.
mhm.
Was me starting to do some of your content. But I think it's a hard thing because, and that's why when I told you, I only right now I only support you, and I only plan on supporting you until a few of my other friends get on, and if they start doing well, obviously I'll support them. But
Right.
I only support you because, and I'm not going to throw names out there. That's not what we do on this podcast. But I will say there are not a lot of people on Facebook right now using the platform to help mental stability in the way they could. I think that's probably the most positive way I can say that. without being rude.
Hmm.
I think there are a lot of people on Facebook who just go on stream and expect viewers to be there because they will be, because that person's really good. And then there's other people who can expect those viewers, like throw out Picnic Basket. Picnic Basket is an incredible player, but he also cares
Hmm.
about his community. Like,
Yes, he does.
ridiculously cares about his community. I mean, he literally just talks to them for like an hour before stream, and that's what reminds me of you is that same. You know, you're good at the game. You have a lot of people that watch you. You got a lot of support, but you still care about every single one of those people that are in chat, which is hard because, like you said, you never know what someone's, mental state is. You never know how their characteristics are going to be, especially if you play with them, and it brings that like irritation of, oh man, I got shot. You never know what's going to come out, but it
Hmm.
is that difficulty of being who you are as a streamer and continuing to keep you true to yourself while understanding how to make everyone that you can make happy. And I think that's
Yeah.
a very difficult thing to do, but I think you do it very well.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, what
but
I've realized too is that humor, right? Humor seems to help a lot more than it doesn't.
yeah,
That's why I try to. That's where what we were talking about with the let's plays and stuff like that. Like that's where that came from. Is people like to laugh, and if it'll help you forget about your problems for about 5 seconds while you're chuckling, then hey, that's I've done my job.
yeah, and right now I think too, with all the stuff that's going around, a bit of positivity, a bit of happiness really does go a long way. Um, but
Everything going on. It's my
yeah,
favorite meme right now.
everything going on right now, just with the quarantine, with stuff going on around the world. Which, quick PSA, by the way, guys, like you said earlier, a huge thank you, a huge thank you to the first responders, to the nurses, to the doctors, everyone who's involved with the dealing of this situation and the helping of trying to figure out how to make it go down and control it. A huge thank you to all those people. We love you. Thank you for your work. I know a few of my family members actually are within the medical field dealing with this in Atlanta, in Birmingham, a few places like that. So thank you guys so much. If you are a first responder or in the medical field, really anywhere that's helping with this, thank you so much for your work, and we do
100%.
appreciate and love you guys for everything that you put forward. But I think one of the last things I want to bring up is the thing that everybody wants to know right now, because there's a lot of streams about it. You've posted a lot about it. How do you feel about Warzone? I'm interested. Everybody wants to know how do you
Woo!
feel about what is
Bringing
supposed
up
to
the
be the best BR out right now? How do you feel about where it started and
oh.
where we're at now, and what do you think could be done in the future?
Yeah. So this is a really, really difficult subject for me. Because anybody who watched my streams for any amount of time before Warzone came out knew that I was over the moon excited for it to come out. Every time a tease came out or a leak or any of that stuff, like I was trying not to be one of those overhyped kind of people, but I was
Exactly.
getting hype. I mean, I was so excited. I was like, I cannot wait. I don't care when it comes out. As long as it comes out, I'm just excited for it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do this.
I
I
mean,
am
how could
excited.
you not? It was all the
Yeah.
leaks that were out were like fantastic.
Well, and I was a super fan. I mean, when Blackout came out, right? I was fresh to the BR scene. I had played a tiny bit of PUBG on Xbox when it was first released and super glitchy and just absolutely awful. I played a bunch of Fortnite, but it was more of before everybody became this master builder that I can't seem to beat. And then I played Blackout, and I was like, man, this is so great because I've been playing Call of Duties since I started playing console games. Call of Duty and Halo were like all I played. So like I was like, oh my gosh, a battle royale built with my style of mechanics. Like that's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
down. And Blackout was great, until it stopped being supported. So when Modern Warfare came out and I started grinding it, in the back of my head, I'm going, they're going to release a BR for this.
Yep.
I have to get good at this. I'm going to get good at this. It's going to be great. And I had big, big plans to grind the crap out of Warzone and become one of the top players, one of the top competitive streamers, which, as you guys probably know, I am not a competitive gamer in general. Like I'm not supremely good at the game.
I
I'm
mean,
okay. I feel like I'm pretty good,
we may
but
not
like
be the best, but I can definitely see you being a competitive gamer.
Maybe, but I feel like I would be like I'm no scump, you know. Like
Yeah,
I'm not some ridiculous, you know, over the top gonna be in, you know, the grand finals of esports or anything like that. At least not yet. You know, I've never been at that level, and I was planning on changing that with Warzone. Um, then Warzone dropped, and as much as I love it from a this is a really cool thing perspective,
exactly.
um, the bugs, the you know, whether it's the audio issues or the lagging servers, you know, the degraded servers, or
Exactly.
just the
Yeah.
general inconsistency of some of the weapons, things like that. And the fact that it basically became more of an arcade style game, where really you don't do good unless you just drive around in a truck all day. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
back in the beginning of the season and stuff like that. At that point, I kind of went from okay, this I can't grind this game because it's just too infuriating. There's too much RNG involved on whether or not you're going to have a good game. I could go from dropping a 20 bomb to dying off the rip twice, you know,
Yeah.
it
Well, and
it was back and forth, and it
you know,
was
it's
because
one
I
of those
couldn't
things
figure out.
too where when it came out, there was so many leaks. Going back to the leaks idea, I remember the main thing people were worried about was there were so many things visually happening in like some of the pictures and the videos that were getting teased that one of the
Mhm.
main issues that came up was people saying you've put too much in the game. Even from
A
just
little over the
seeing the
top.
leaks, yeah, even from just seeing the leaks and the pictures, I remember the main conversation I was seeing both on Reddit and on Facebook was, we're afraid they've put too much in this game. And the funny part was, if people remember, um, about I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the game was actually supposed to be released, they had a few different streamers fly out to play the game. For those of you who remember seeing like the little Dr. Disrespect and a few other people that were teasing, oh, we've been there, we've played it. They did fly a few people out, but it came out later that the main reason why this was moved back was because I don't remember whose video I watched that said this, but it came out from a few different news outlets that the main reason it got pushed back was because they had those streamers come play and there were so many things wrong or broken that they actually
Mhm.
couldn't fix it in time for the original release. Because I remember it was pushed back. People thought it was the week
Oh, yeah.
before it was supposed to come out, and it was supposed to come out that week before, but there was so many problems with it that they actually didn't have time to fix them before the release. And
Yep.
so I think that Warzone is probably the best feeling BR I've ever played. It's probably the best gun mechanic wise and shot wise. It's probably the best feeling game, but it stops there for me when it comes to the game being good. And I'm sure, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that there's going to be so many people comment on this video saying how wrong we both are. And Lord to the God above, I know there's going to be people commenting, you're just not good enough to play it. You're just not skilled enough to play the game right. You're just complaining because you haven't got win. Look, let's be real here. We're not the only people. There are many headline streamers who have not only talked about these issues, but who have also laughed at them for not being fixed. So
Mm.
you can
Well, and
say, yeah,
I just wanna interject one thing, like, while I am frustrated with the game's issues, I still and I'm not going to become supremely competitive at it like I had originally planned. I do think that they will get around to fixing the right things eventually. I think if they will, you know, I feel like they're trying. And, you know, if you go check their Trello board and stuff like they have a lot of these issues listed on them as
exactly.
in progress or, you know, plan to be started and stuff like that. And coming from a software development background, I understand that side of things. Like, I get why there's so many issues still. And I like they had to bite the bullet and release it anyways with the issues.
Yep,
And they can only do so many things at one time, not to mention global server testing is nearly impossible until a full launch. So I
exactly.
understand and I appreciate that. And I am about this game. I still love the game. I'm still playing it every day. However, it's for me, it's more of if I try to get really sweaty in it, I get very frustrated. For instance, a couple days ago was running a solo game, had 12 kills, still early in the game, really, really having a great time. I'm going off. I'm having a blast. Just just having a good time. And then I get killed by somebody who has no audio, who watching the kill cam literally sprinted up behind me without dead silence and killed me. And like things like that are where I go, oh, this is why I can't take this game seriously right
Yeah.
now. Is because it doesn't matter what I do unless I'm willing to drive around in a truck all game. I can't expect to be able to go off every time consistently. So being inconsistent is already a problem for me. So having the game bugs cause more inconsistency is what frustrates me and makes it to where the only time I really enjoy playing it right now is when I play with my community. So when I play with my
Exactly.
supporters and my followers and I play with my friends, my streamer friends like you and stuff like that. Like that's when I have fun with it.
Well, and I think that honestly, once, because the main difference for me right now between BO4 or Blackout and Warzone is that Warzone's at least changing. Whether each update is for good or worse. Now, I have my own ideas on that 15 plus gigabyte update we just got, but I think that main difference between how Blackout was handled and how Warzone's being handled is even though Warzone has more to deal with the crossplay, they're at least trying to change things, and I do appreciate that from them. And it's just
Right.
like you said, I'm still playing it. I still get on, like when you guys get on, I still play it. It does irritate me, but I also know that once they get these things fixed, I think that it'll probably, if not be the best crossplay game and best BR that's out there right now because of how many people are involved. But it just takes time, and you have to come around to. All of us get irritated. It's FPS. It's competitive. If you're doing good and you get killed, we all get irritated. It's the way the game
Mhm.
works. But
That happens.
yeah, but I
Well,
think that
and
they'll have that ability to change things. I think it'll be a really good game when they
agr
come around to it.
agreed, but that leads to one big fear that I have, and I had and it's all thanks to Blackout. Blackout did this to me. It planted this fear in my brain,
Oh, good lord, what
and
is it?
Blackout was supposed to be. I don't know if you remember the beginning of BO4 launch and Blackout launch and all of the crazy things. It was supposed to be comparable to Fortnite's incredible map updates and
Oh,
all of
yep,
the big
yep,
story drivers. There were supposed to be Easter eggs constantly being released that added to that was their excuse for not adding a campaign
yeah,
to BO4 was because Blackout was supposed to evolve. It was supposed to become something better than what it was. And then the support just dropped. The seasons ended. Even before the seasons ended, they stopped really updating the game. Oh, they made it brighter once. Like
yeah,
when they did the dark zombie foggy map
yeah. Oh, I had
thing,
not thought about that
I
for
I was
forever.
so happy because I was like, "Oh my god, they're still supporting this. They're still making changes." And then after that, they brightened it back up, changed some colors, and then really didn't do much else. A couple of new game modes, and then they stopped supporting it completely.
Well, and their
Um,
gun support changed too, because I don't know if you remember, but
mhm,
there was the supposed leaks of new weapons coming out, and that just
mhm,
around the same
mhm,
time that the map changes stopped. Because
mhm.
I don't know if you heard or not, but there was actually rumored that around the time Modern Warfare was dropping, there was supposed to be that week before there was supposed to be a whole new season that got
Yeah.
released, and there was a few pictures released of what the season was going to look like for Blackout. It got completely nixed, like
Yeah, exactly.
completely.
Exactly, and the problem is that it lost community support, first of all. Once it lost community support, it was doomed to fail,
Yeah.
and it lost community support because they weren't addressing the right issues at the right time, and, I spent tons of money on that game between I loved buying the skins. I loved what they did with the skins. I thought they were really cool. I am not a typically an in-app purchase kind of person. Like, I don't spend extra money on games that I've already paid for. Like I'll
Yeah.
buy on free games, I'll buy stuff all the time because I feel like it's important to support the developers. But on games that I've paid for, I don't typically buy loot crates or skins or weapons or anything like that.
Yeah.
But with Blackout, it was the first game that I ever did that with because I was like, you know what? I love where they're going. I love what they're doing, and I'm loving the stuff that they're launching. So yeah, here you go. You take my money. It was great. And then it just stopped. Everything
Yeah.
just died. And when Modern Warfare came out, was grinding it because I thought one, the campaign was amazing. The multiplayer was incredible. I loved the game mechanics. Like I loved everything about Modern Warfare itself. I was good at the multiplayer. Like I enjoyed it. Um, until eventually I switched over to quickscoping nonstop, and then yeah, it just got kind of boring after a while. But I was really just waiting for the BR to drop, and my fear, as I was starting this topic, my fear is based in the fact that if they do not fix some of these issues earlier than later, earlier rather than later, they're going to lose community support, and then they're going to lose motivation or reason to actually continuously update this game. What happens when Call of Duty 2020, whatever it's supposed to be, Black Ops 5, I don't remember
Yeah,
what
I'm
it's
not
supposed to
sure
be.
either. I'm not sure
But
right now.
when that comes out, I understand that, I understand that it's a different studio, but it's still Activision. It's still the same publisher. Are they going to slow down their support of you know, of Warzone, especially considering the fact that right now Activision is the main provider, or rather the main owner of these servers, or renter of these servers that most of the Warzone servers live on. I don't know if you
Exactly. Yeah.
saw
Yep.
the recent posts about it, but like there was like they dug in, they did trace routes and all that stuff, and found out that um a lot of the servers that Warzone runs on are run on rented servers in different locations, which is not a weird thing at all. I mean,
Yeah.
that's cloud mechanics that's been around for a long time now. That's the norm for a properly networked game.
Yeah.
However, some of these are not being maintained, and some of these have low performance ratings, and some of these are bad. In generally, they're just bad servers, and they should just be wiped off. Well, Activision is the one that is renting these servers for the use of Warzone. Well, what happens when they start losing support on Warzone? When they start losing their community, they start losing their players, they start losing their need for keeping the servers. You think that they're going to get rid of the cheap servers that they're paying for?
Yeah.
There's no way. They're going to get rid of the expensive, taking up all their money, all their time servers, and then your server issues are going to get worse, just like Blackout did. You're going to end up getting, less. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a lot rougher, and Warzone will end up crashing and burning, just like Blackout did. Once the next game releases, just because it loses its publisher support. So
Well,
I don't
and
know. That's just my opinion. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but
yeah, and I think that I completely agree because I remember when Blackout first came out, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do map changes. There's gonna be." There was never really a rumor of new maps being added so much as the map being changed. And I was super excited for that, but it kind of got. I remember there was an ongoing joke where in Blackout, the main question people asked if there was an update, people said, "Okay, what's going to break first?" People said, "Okay, there's an update. It's going to take us 3 days to install, and what's going to break first when we get out of it?" And people would literally go on hunts to say, "Okay, is the audio what's broken? And there was always something. But
hmm
I think with Warzone, I agree completely, and I think that two reasons that I agree. Number one is a lot of people don't realize the back end of a lot of these servers. A lot of people don't realize what crossplay actually means. That's why the
right.
people saying, "Oh, if you just delete crossplay, that'd be what fixes all this." No, I'm sorry, but no, that's not how that works. Um, but I think the second thing is Warzone has an Easter egg happening now. It's not like ready to go, and I don't know when it'll be ready to go. I don't know if they're even working on it actively right now, but they have a flipping huge Easter egg happening. And one that even to this day, if I'm not wrong, maybe they may have found the rest of them, but there are doors around the map, there are computers, there are phones, and apparently there are 20, 30, 40 of these each, and there are people still looking for these, and no one knows what's going to happen with that. No one yet that I know. There may have been somebody so far that's seen them on YouTube, but last time I checked, even the bigger Easter egg hunters had not found the rest of these. And one of the things was we think we're not finding them because they're not in the game yet. And
Right.
so I think that Warzone has a really, really cool opportunity to start that and to have your BR players go for something completely different when they're playing and have a reason to want to get on grind. What is this egg about? But it's like you said, if you don't work on it, if you don't put it in there, if people get to where they don't really care as much, if it goes months and months down the road like we have and still that Easter egg's not ready to go, then you're going to lose a lot of your YouTubers that are like, hey, I'm bringing back good content about this is an Easter egg. Here's what it means. Here's how to
Mhm.
do it. They're not going to have that content and they're not going to stick around waiting for you. That's not how content works. They're not going to stick around
The
waiting
hype
for you to.
dies.
Exactly. And so I hope that Warzone sticks to it, listens to their community, which I think they're trying to do, and kind of pulls out of their back pocket something really, really cool that blows us apart. Because I don't want it to be like Fortnite. I don't want it to be like Blackout. I want it to be its own thing, and I think they're headed that way. I just think they
Mhm.
they need to do it correctly, and like you said, they need to stick with it. But I think
Yeah,
the last,
they've definitely redesigned, like, they've definitely redefined battle royales in my opinion,
yeah,
and battle royales in general is such a new concept to the gaming industry that it doesn't have an exact definition. That's why I love when people say, oh, this isn't a BR. Well, really, what is it then? Because you can't define a BR just because of looting, because then you would say Tarkov is a BR and it's not.
no,
You
not
can't
even
say
close.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't say that it's an open world game because there's a million of them. GTA is not a BR, but nobody can say what exactly a battle royale is other than it's a fight to be on the top, right? A fight with a
exactly.
lot of people in an open world to be on top. And even Warzone has changed that. I consider, even though Plunder is not battle royale itself, I still consider it a BR mode. Like, it's still a version of battle royale. You're
Exactly.
still
Yeah.
fighting to be top from a different perspective. So it's yes, I'm with you 100%. I think that I also think that if they try to put the Easter egg, while I agree that they need to continue that hype, otherwise it will die off.
Yeah.
I think that they need to also put in some of these bug fixes that a lot of people are asking for,
Oh,
because
agreed. Yeah.
otherwise all they're going to get is, why would you put this content in here without actually fixing the issues first,
Well, and I
things like
think they're getting a lot of that now too. Which, as much as I love them, and as much as I know they're doing hard
that.
work to get this stuff up and running for us, which I appreciate that
Mhm,
they're doing that work. I think there's a few things I think they could have waited on in the past couple updates, like a few
mhm, mhm,
guns and mechanics and cosmetics. And it's one of those things I had issues with Black Ops as well, because the main thing that I always say is Black Ops had these same issues. And I'll never really, I guess maybe later we'll find out, but I'll never really understand where they went with this. But Black Ops had these weapon mechanic issues, they had these sound issues, they
mhm,
had, the
mhm.
hitbox registration for bullet issues, which, by the way, is one of Warzone and multiplayer, by the way's biggest issues is hit registration. Um, I do want to know in the future why Warzone maybe didn't pay closer attention to that, because first thing
Yeah.
out, that was the main issue: is people saying sounds completely messed up, the gun mechanics are off, and hit registration is terrible, which were the exact same main issues in
Uh,
Blackout.
I mean, that issue is pretty easily explained if you look at the server architecture. I mean, the way client server relationships work, especially when you have server hosted, where all clients are connected to one server.
Mm-hmm.
What you end up having, especially with 150 people, imagine 150 people, and each client, each person, 100, each one of those 150 is in a different area of the world, and they're all connected to the same server that's in the middle of the US or something like that.
Yeah.
Or not even in the world, let's just say around the nation, right? And you have, everybody's got a different ISP, everybody has different down and up speeds, everyone has their own, whether they're on wireless or they're hardwired to their router, things like that, right? All of these different things are happening. So the compensation that is done on the server side, when it's making all of these, hundreds of thousands of calculations a second to try and, it's to try and place where you are, where your bullet is, where where the enemy is, all of that stuff, getting shot and or hitting someone and not actually getting a hit reg, it totally makes sense, because while on your screen they look like they're there, on the server doesn't see them there because that client on their side sees them somewhere else. So there is a lot of explainable, while it is fixable, I think it's ever improving. Your ability to make it better is there. However, upon release, at release day, was the first time they ever had that actual situation happen
Exactly.
of a bunch of people playing it from all different locations. There's no way to test that before then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now we are how many months into the release? Like how long has it been out? Like
Oh,
2
good.
months?
It's been yeah for
2
2 3
2 to
months.
3
Yeah.
months? So, it feels like longer because of quarantine, but 2 to 3 months,
We've been in
right,
quarantine
of
so
it.
long.
Yeah, 2 to 3 months of this, and there's still some of these issues. The audio issue is one of the most interesting ones in my opinion because I have a lot of sorry, diving back into my crazy background of a bunch of different jobs.
Oh, go
You know, I
ahead. I'm
went
learning stuff I've never
I
known before.
I went to, I went to Berkeley, right? I went to Berkeley for music production, and I went for a music production and sound engineering degree. Now, I did not finish my degree, but I did learn a ton while I was going to school. And one of the things I learned about were audio bit rates. And the reason why my audio on my stream usually sounds top notch is because of the way I have allocated certain amount of memory to my audio bit rate, and I'm putting out a much higher buffer so that way I can include multiple sound sources and kind of squeeze a little more performance out of my audio. The audio that comes through on the game, right? The reason we get those, those weird moments where like there's no plane sound, the chute doesn't open, your parachute, like no parachute sound, person sneaks up behind you, sprinting dead, tack sprinting completely at you, and you don't hear a sound or anything like that. That is a bitrate issue, most likely. I'm not saying it is for sure, but most likely that is a bitrate issue where the packets that are coming in, while you may not lose the packets come in too late
Exactly.
from that contain the audio. They come in too late from the server to your PS4 or to your computer or to your Xbox. They come in too late for it to actually register, and the client just throws them away. There's no reason to keep them because, and so what ends up happening is you get no audio. You get a bad audio cue. And I mean that stuff happens all the time. It's just 3 months this game has been out, 2 to 3 months. I'm hoping I'm hoping that they're close. They should be close to at least some sort of improvement, not a
Yeah.
fix. They're never going to blanket fix the entire thing 100%, because of how much there is in this game and how big it is and how intense the data is that comes in and goes out. So,
Exactly.
but they could improve it. They should be improving it, and that's what I'm waiting for. Like at the moment that the audio is fixed, that's going to be a game changer, I think, for a lot of competitive play.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
it'll take a lot of RNG. But then, of course, then you get people like, you'll get people like Z-Laner and Picnic Basket, and you'll get and Promise, who will drop 30 bombs consistently. But if you look at how they play, they're constantly on the roll.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just a nonstop run and gun,
And that's how
just
they were in
abs-
Blackout too. They had to be. I mean, with
yeah,
this
yeah,
game,
yeah.
you have to be consistently on the roll
Mhm.
to do
Agree.
any well. But so basically, long story short, there's a few things that need to be fixed. There's things that we
Mhm.
hope that in the future they will, and we have much hope for that. But I think last thing that I want to know for you as being in the streaming world for so long, game wise, and now different content on different platforms, what is one piece of advice that you could give to a starting streamer from your point of view to help him or her be successful, have a positive community, and have good growth?
Think about everything you do before you do it and why you're doing it. Make sure that you have the right motivations behind it. If you go into it looking if you go into streaming, content creation, whatever, with the wrong reasons, with the wrong motivations, and which can be hard, by the way, because like you can convince yourself of anything. I think any person's brain is smart enough to convince themselves that they're doing it for the right reasons or they're doing the right things. Um, Spend real hard time looking at your own self and understanding who you are as a person, what it is you're trying to accomplish, and then just stick to it. Stick to your guns. Don't give up on what you're doing, because what ends up happening, and I was guilty of this. I was actually really, really guilty of this until I got slapped in the face with some serious knowledge.
Do tell.
When I went full time, okay, I went full time in August last year in 2019. I went full time, and When I did that, I did it because I had enough money in the bank from selling off my shares at the software company,
Yeah.
and I was able to support myself. I had an extremely supportive wife who has never given up on me and always is there for me, and she also, her job makes enough money to keep the income rolling, right? All of that allowed me to go full time, and the week after I went full time, my viewership, my CCV dropped, my engagement dropped. I mean, there was a lot of issues all of a sudden, and it ended up being, a Facebook algorithm issue or something like that. But wow, was it discouraging,
Yeah.
and wow, did I almost cry myself to sleep every night for like a week straight because I didn't understand what I was doing wrong, and I couldn't and the worst part of it was I would go to other streams, and in the art of air quote networking, I would go and sit in other streams and watch what they were doing. And I'd be like, "Well, why?" And then I would ask myself, I'd be like, "Well, why are they successful and why am I
Yeah.
not? What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong that I'm not like them?" And don't get me wrong, you can pull inspiration from other streamers and other content creators and stuff like that. I mean, I have a lot of creators out there that inspired me to become who I am so far today. Um, but when you start comparing yourself to these other people, it can be super disheartening. It can be super depressing, and you'll end up in the state that I was. And I was miserable. And how can I help anybody else have a good time and feel better if I'm miserable, you know?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so so what ended up happening was I reached out to Picnic, because he was one of my very first. He was one of the first streamers that I supported, and he was somebody that I just generally enjoyed being in his streams. I learned a lot on the gameplay side of things from him and stuff like that. So I reached out to him a couple weeks after I went full time, and as I was going through this, and I just said, "Hey, man, I'm freaking out right now." I was like, I've got to turn this around. I've got to start turning this into a source of income. I have to, I can't, if I stick with this for too long and it fails, I'm going to have to go back to my old job. And while I can't do that because like I want to be all in. And he looked at me, or well, he didn't look at me. He messaged me back and he goes, man, we've all been there. It's all happened, but I have one very simple piece of advice for you. And he's like, you need to just burn the ships. And I was like, "What do you mean burn the ships?" He's like, and I don't know if you know the burn of the ships analogy, but
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
the when the British or somebody, I think it was the British, when the British Navy or somebody, I'm gonna totally boof this off, but basically, the idea is they would set fire to their ships so that way their soldiers would not have a place to return to, that they had to keep moving forward. They could not turn back. They couldn't go back to where they were. They had to just keep moving forward. It gave them motivation. It helped them drive, it helped them
Exactly.
drive themselves, right?
Exactly.
Well, he was saying burn the ships, which is a huge deal of moving forward. And on top of that, stop looking at other people as if they are you. No
Yeah.
one else is going to be as committed to your thing, to doing you as you are. Nobody in the world is ever going to see what you do as important as you do,
Exactly. And I think
right?
that's one of the reasons why, me and you had a conversation about some of this YouTube stuff that we're kind of really just deep diving into.
Right.
And that's kind of the reason I stopped. It's gonna be funny. It's an awkward thing for me because a lot of people have messaged me being like, "Why'd you stop?" And I'm like, "It's okay," but it's kind of that exact same thing for me when I stopped streaming because
Hmm.
there is at some point you have to be a man enough or woman enough to realize, okay, hey, this is either with streaming, it's kind of like this is either a hobby or you're doing well enough to where you need to continue going, you know?
Hmm.
And so for me, I kind of realized, it was a hobby, but I found editing and I found audio filing and I found video making. And I
Hmm.
kind of realized that for like a year and a half, I was almost at 1,000 followers. I had a couple of Patreon supporters. I was doing good, but my viewership was going down. I wasn't playing things. I had built my whole page off of Black Ops, and I just didn't like playing it anymore. And I wanted to do variety stuff, and I learned that a lot of that has to do with if you build yourself up, and I think this is something that you'll probably agree with. If you build yourself up as a streamer that plays a game that makes him unhappy, you're gonna die. You're
Yep,
going to
that is
die.
100%
Your
accurate.
page is
Yep.
going to die, and people aren't going to enjoy watching you because they're coming to you for positivity, coming to you for happiness. And I had to have a smack in the face to realize that I was streaming something that was irritating me and I was losing viewership. But now I do something that's actually, I edit for you, and I'm having a great time doing it, and I have so much support now. And I see that you are headed, you've got so much support going down the road. You're headed big places. You've got a lot of stuff going on. I think that's really, really awesome. But I appreciate that advice. I think all these newer streamers will as well. But guys, thank you
Absolutely.
so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hobo, thank you for taking time out of your beautiful day, you beautiful man, to
Thank you
come
for
talk to
having me.
us.
I had
Absolutely.
an absolute blast.
So that being said, guys, thank you so much for stopping by this week's episode of Capture Your Dreams. But before we go, what social media does a hobo have?
You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/hobo.stream. That's where I run all of my shows. And then you can also find me on Twitter at hobo_stream and on Instagram.
Again, guys, all these things will be listed below, as well as, if you haven't already, make sure to put a like and a thumbs up on this video. We are on Facebook at Capture Your Dreams Podcast, so make sure to look up our page, give it a like and a follow there. We'll post all the links from our YouTube videos to that page. But again, thank you, beautiful people, for being here. We'll be posting every single week. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one. See you guys later.